Ajnanamagyanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurinmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, you're happy here? You like it here? Not sure. It's better than the place previously, isn't it? With staying there with all those jivas who are not very Krishna conscious. This reminds me, in my youth, I spent from the age of 22 up to about 30, I was extensively traveling in the villages in Bangladesh, and it was like this. There was no electricity. Mud houses, more kacha, or more, maybe you can say less developed than these ones. Mostly not tile roofs, mostly thatch roofs. And they're not solid and strong like this. The mud in Bengal is very soft. So practically every day you have to rebuild it. Some of the mud comes out, you have to put it back like this. And it was common, the floods, and then after the floods people would rebuild their whole house, they'd all get washed away. But actually this atmosphere is much more conducive for spiritual life. It's another thing I often found when traveling in Bangladesh, that we just arrived. Sometimes we'd arrive in a village without them even knowing we were coming. It didn't happen very often, because mostly they knew in advance. But oftentimes we'd go and it might be I was staying in a town for some days and someone would say, come to my village, and I just go without, and there'd be no advance notice. There's no way to tell them, there's no phone or any such thing. So we just arrive unannounced. And people would be doing kirtan. It's a common thing. What are you going to do after dark? Their culture is to do kirtan. It's a very ordinary, common thing people would do. So now you're more after dark here, you can come and join the kirtan. And it's not so easy to do other things, is it? Traditionally also you see that, of course I may feel a little inconvenience because I want to write. I have this burning in my mind all the time, write. So, but traditionally that would finish by dusk. The writing would finish, dawn to dusk. You can study and writing. Study doesn't go on after sunset. So many great books were written, but not after dark. That came later, that Prabhupada himself said, he used to study by the oil lamp. That means for his college. But there's a Shastric rule also, that after dark, there's no more study. But it's not like reading and writing, but certainly kirtan and discussion of Shastric topics, that would go on. Hearing. Not official teaching, but hearing in this sense of hearing. There may be some lectures, Mahabharata, Ramayana, all these discussions. So that was the culture. Electricity has indirectly destroyed that. Because with electricity, then there's TV, and then there's all hell. Everything else comes. Now I see in Bangladesh, electricity is everywhere, TV is everywhere, and kirtan is not so common. People watch TV. So this is nice. We want to show. Prabhupada wanted to show to the world. He had such an ambitious plan to change the world. because Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam. Hare Nama is the only way for spiritual perfection in this age, but Prabhupada saw that people don't have time, and nor the inclination. The modern society makes people into demons. So, this simple life is very conducive for spiritual advancement. And although people in the modern age can't imagine living without electricity, but the whole human race up to the present time did so. Srila Prabhupada often discussed that also, how they say previously people were backward. Well, look at the kind of literature that Vyasadeva has given. This is not the work of a backward person. Because the people, the Prabhupada is saying, they think because they don't have electricity they're backward. But as Prabhupada often used to say, simple living and high thinking. And actually, the whole, it becomes conducive to peaceful, sattvic atmosphere in which it's the culture, the consciousness can be uplifted. With the modern culture, there's through TV, newspapers, and computers, there's so much information coming at you. You drive on the road, there's so many billboards, there's so much information and impressions coming at you all the time. But the peaceful introspectiveness by which one can understand or even begin to think about what the highest truth is, that is actually impeded by the bombardment of useless information. So people think that it's very advanced to have all these things, but people don't understand that advancement means advancement of consciousness. And advancement of consciousness is not necessarily synonymous with gathering lots of information about useless things. It may be that someone is not very educated, but their consciousness is very high. Whereas someone else is superficially very educated, but their consciousness is very low. People put more emphasis on intelligence. And they consider intelligence to be the ability to manipulate the material energy in various ways, or to acquire lots. Well, especially that's scientific and technological knowledge is utilized to manipulate the material energy in various ways. And there are other fields of knowledge also, like history and philosophy. There's not much interest in philosophy these days, of any kind, even stupid things what they call philosophy. Even that they're not interested. What to speak of real philosophy? So, you're reading this encyclopedia of religions. It's an encyclopedia of speculations, which are kind of somewhat going in the right direction, but no real direction how to go there. They kind of some of them have got something like the right idea, and a lot of wrong ideas mixed up. I didn't read it, but I can just imagine what it is. So, Srila Prabhupada he'd often present Krishna consciousness as actually something very simple. There are just some very simple things to be understood. But not understanding this, we become so unnecessarily complicated. The Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given Jeev Krishna Das E Vishas Korleta Ardukana. There's everything, the whole philosophy of Krishna consciousness can be expanded from this. These few words, Jeev, I'm not this body, I'm the eternal servant of Krishna. Well, that's the next point. Jeev Krishna Das. There's Krishna. And who is Krishna? And that we have to understand. I am servant, he is the master. And just a Vishvas, to trust this. If people say, prove it, well, you can't prove it. Prove me, what do you want to do? You want to mix up some chemicals and then some genie's going to pop out of the chemicals and say, Jeev Krishna Das. Even then you wouldn't believe it. It's not, Krishna is aprameya. He's not, by definition, he's not measurable. So you say prove it, well it's not provable according to your standards. It doesn't fit in your, it doesn't, what you want or desire or you think should be the criterion for understanding. It's not at all. Your approach, if you say prove it, in the very beginning your approach is flawed, because Krishna is not to be proved or disproved by any mundane methods. So Vishwas, some faith is required, not foolish faith, not blind faith. And then Korleta Ardukanai, and then all problems solved. Just this. So in many ways it's very simple, and you don't have to be a big scholar to understand. If we do understand this, then automatically we are the greatest scholar. And if we don't understand this, then we can have so much big philosophy, discussion, this, that, but if we don't understand this basic point, Hare Krishna. If we don't understand this basic point, then it's all useless. That's why you're asking about this, Swarasiki Upasana, which basically means, I suppose, I never heard the term before, but I can imagine, it means imagining oneself to be a gopi. Yeah, alright, that's very good, but first let's get this in order. Jeev Krishna Das Evishas Korleta Ardukanai. I'm the eternal servant of Krishna. When you got that absolutely fully, that's understood, then any way that will come. You don't have to make any separate endeavor. When that's understood, then everything else will come naturally. You ever heard that before? Everything else will come. So you don't have to artificially try. Everything will come. Just by understanding, and this upasana. Upasana means seva. Upasana literally means coming close to, come close, but that means we come close by service. Upasana, it means worship. It's translated as worship. That's the translation. There may not be any exact English word. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying this word bhakti, actually there's no equivalent in English for the word. We say worship, devotion. There's no actual equivalent in English. Nor is it proper. Even, what's the translation of bhakti in Tamil? Bhakti, yeah. But what you think is bhakti, what the average Tamil person thinks is bhakti, is not what Vyasadeva is writing about. So what you say in Tamil is, I know the translation is bhakti. I happen to know that. But what you say is bhakti, what the average Tamil person says is bhakti. They don't know what Vyasadeva is writing. To understand this word, then we have to hear from acharyas who understand the import of Shastra. So it's very simple. Jeev Krishna Das Ebishas Korleta Ardukana. Just understand I am eternal servant of Krishna. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then I have no more problems. All problems, dukkha. What is dukkha? Janma mrityu jaravyadhi dukkha doshanudarshana. The entanglement in material life, the miseries of repeated birth and death, that's automatically finished by understanding this one point. Understanding means accepting. But it's very similar, but it may not be so easy. We presume that we've all understood this, so now we'll just become gopis. Yeah, I understood. I got my Bhakti Shastri degree. You see, I wrote the constitutional position of the Jiva is Swami. I got my Bhakti Shastri. So now I'm ready for Swarasa ki upasana. Now I'm ready to become a gopi. But it's simple, but it may not be so easy also, due to our wicked intelligence. Therefore again, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, all the Acharya, Dushtaman, Tumi Kisha Vaishnava, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, what rascal mind. What kind of a Vaishnava are you? Bhajare man atimanda. Bhaja Braja Bane Radha Krishna Charanaravrinda. That is our object of worship, Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. But first, rascal mind. Understand, mind is rascalish. So, all these points are easier to understand if we cultivate the higher consciousness, Krishna consciousness, which is imbibed by hearing and chanting about Krishna in the association of devotees. This facility gives us more facility. You may think we have less facilities here. But actually there's more facility for hearing and chanting. There's less facility for doing other things. But that means automatically there's more facility for hearing and chanting about Krishna. So that's better, isn't it? And that whole lifestyle that Prabhupada wanted to give, that people would... Of course this is a temple project, but in the farm communities that Srila Prabhupada wanted to establish, there may not be some big temple, maybe. But that also, it's the big temple that is for preaching to the masses. But it's a big thing to maintain, and unless there are rich sponsors, then the big temples fall into disrepair and they can't be maintained properly. We see all over Tamil Nadu so many big temples, Vishnu temples, Shiva temples, mostly these two. I think Vishnu temples are probably more, the big ones. There are many Shiva temples, but I think more. When I'm talking about the old ancient ones. In that area, that Kumbhakonam to Tandra, if you drive in there, you see so many big temples. And all over Tamil Nadu, especially in this state. But they're in disrepair. They were built. At that time there were kings and they were giving money for that, but now that's not. There's no kings to maintain. So, building a big temple, it's a big endeavor. It's for preaching Krishna consciousness, but another preaching is to show, or not only show, but to provide the facility by which people can live simply and chant Hare Krishna without any big burdens. The big burden now in modern Indian life means everyone has debts. They're buying a house, they're buying a car, they're buying, for the poorer people, even to buy a scooter, then they're in debt for that. So many burdens. But if we live simply, then we don't have so many material facilities, but more material facilities means more material burdens also. Again, to Bangladesh, one devotee, one of my disciples, was telling me that we have everything we need. We produce everything we need. We have fields, not much, but they have fields. They produce rice, mustard oil. There's no electricity, so they don't have electricity bills. But we say we have everything we need, but we don't have any money. So he works as a carpenter also. So they need a little money to come into the city and visit the temple, and the people feel they need to have... It's difficult to live in the modern age, it's true, without money. Prabhupada's great revolution, that he wanted these farm communities with no money. No money, then there's no nonsense. Just produce whatever you need. And traditionally people lived without money. Most people didn't have money. They just lived simply and chant Hare Krishna, that's all. So, all these things, living simply, higher consciousness. To live like, who can live like this? Prabhupada, he said that we cannot live simply unless we have bhakti. That people who are used to this, all modern facilities, they're not going to come and live like this unless they have a higher principle, unless they understand the higher principle. They'll want to come, I don't have material facilities, but I have spiritual facilities. So it is difficult in some ways, although you get used to it, to live without electricity. And in the summer it's hot. So we're used to having the electric fans or air conditioners. So you may not have that. So you may think it's very difficult. But to maintain, to get that thing going round and round, you have to go and work and take so much difficulty, working for someone you don't like, doing some job you don't like, and to have that fan which is whirring over your head. So, whatever you do, there's some difficulty. But this living simply is very accepting that it's actually not very difficult, as you're probably perceiving now. But at first it may seem like a shock, but it's helpful. It's not in and of itself Krishna consciousness. Living with or without electricity is not going to make... It's not the criterion for going back to Godhead. If we live without electricity but we don't chant Hare Krishna, then we're in a much worse position than if we have electricity and we do chant Hare Krishna. But if we have the intention to chant Hare Krishna, then this simple way of life, it is overall more conducive. So good, it's nice. Here, like this. And there's a lot of work to do to develop this. So all of you have come here, you've chosen to come here. You could be somewhere else. You could be in your home sweet home. Or brahmacharis could be in some other ISKCON temple. This is maybe the only ISKCON temple in India like this, with buildings hand-built, without modern cement and bricks and all this, and living with, not without electricity, but with minimal. So you could be somewhere else, but you've decided to come here. So please cooperate and help to develop this, and let's see if we can do something. It's in this not very significant or well-known town. It's not a prestigious town like Chennai or Bangalore or Mumbai. Most people never heard of Salem. But let's try to do something here to serve the mission of Srila Prabhupada. I'm saying cooperate. It seems to be the most difficult thing in Kali Yuga. In the age of quarrel. Very difficult. I was just listening to a lecture by Gopi Pranadana Prabhu, who was saying that, he was being quite frank, and he was saying that even within our movement we see, there may be some hostility or some bad feelings or exploitation. He said, anyway, despite this, we have to remember Srila Prabhupada's request to cooperate together to spread Krishna consciousness. So that itself is an achievement too. It's easier that we can just say, forget all these people, and just because that's everyone thinks I'm right and everyone else is wrong. And in Kali Yuga people do tend to deal in not very good ways with each other. So we may have to tolerate that and seek good association. Always seek good association. Tyajya durjana sangsargam bhajya sadhu samagamam. You should avoid bad association, keep good association. Bhaja sadhu samagamam. And we also have to be careful ourselves that, many times I've seen in all these more than 32 years in Srila Prabhupada's International Society for Krishna Consciousness, that someone joins and they're very humble, and then gradually they're not new. Gradually the new humble devotee becomes more senior, and then they're not so humble anymore, and they become very harsh and harassing others. And what happened? He was so humble in the beginning, so you have to be. It may seem that I'm just doing this for Krishna, but where service to Krishna, where we're trying to do that, sometimes that gets mixed up with our own false ego. One who's trying to help others or trying to serve, a leader has to sometimes be strong with others, but that's required. But then like this, we have to be very careful not to ourselves become what is that called? Delusions of grandeur. There's a saying in English. Delusions of grandeur. Being deluded, thinking I'm very great, I'm very big, I'm very important. This is a great danger for sadhus, because people tend to think they're very great and very important. Some people, not everyone. There's certain political party in Tamil Nadu which is openly atheistic. But there are many people who, in India anyway, not in every country, but actually in most countries many people tend to respect someone who's religious, in many countries. In Czech, is it like that at all? People respect monks. It's a Catholic country. Catholics, they're more respect. Poland, culture there. Ireland, definitely. I had so many experiences when I was traveling and preaching in Ireland of people respecting us, they didn't understand us. We were parking in a field one night. We parked in a field in Ireland to go to sleep after a day's book distribution. And some young farm boys, they said, "What's this van parked in our field?" They asked, "What are you doing?" They said, "Well, we're monks." Then half an hour later, their whole family came and they brought us a whole big meal. It was all meat and everything, so we had to explain. But the idea that we should do some service, some monks came to our village. And that was... but we have to be careful not to have delusions of grandeur and think, now I'm very big, I'm very important. So, it's difficult to go up in Krishna consciousness because going up means coming down. And at the same time, as one is going up, by going down, by realizing I'm the servant of Krishna, as one is going up, then part of the duty is to give some guidance to others. So even though one's trying to go, if one is actually trying to advance in Krishna consciousness, one is trying to go down and become more humble, become a servant of others, but at the same time, it becomes the duty to take a somewhat superior position to others in order to guide them. That's why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that a Vaishnava can never be a guru. Because as soon as one thinks I'm a guru, then he stops being a Vaishnava. As soon as one thinks I'm superior to someone, then he ceases to be a Vaishnava. He said, on the other hand, if a Vaishnava does not become a guru, then the parampara cannot go on. People cannot be benefited. So what is the solution to this paradox? You know what paradox means? Can you say? If they got the word for that? Paradox, dilemma, contradictory situation. What is the solution? You can't be a guru and a Vaishnava. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gave the solution. Amar Agya, Guru Hai, on my order, not on your own mental speculation. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who teaches Jiveswarup Hoy Krishna Nityadas, Trinada Pisuni Chena Toror Apiseshana, Amanina Amanadena Kirtaniya Sadaharihi. He also says, now you become a guru, on my order. So every Vaishnava is a guru. So you say, well, that's an ISKCON guru, But every Vaishnava is constitutionally, by being a Vaishnava, one automatically becomes a guru. In the sense that one is teaching. Even those Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj didn't accept disciples. He accepted one. And anyone else who came, he beat them with an umbrella. So he didn't, but he's guru, acharya, teaching by his behavior. By not accepting disciples, he was being guru. And how you say, well, how is that? I can't understand that. But he was teaching that one thing is the humility of a Vaishnava, and another is that he didn't want to accept people unless they really wanted to be a Vaishnava. So through him, through Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the whole world has got the opportunity to understand what it means to be a Vaishnava. So every Vaishnava is a guru. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said everyone should be a guru, does that mean the housewives are excluded? If someone is at home, woman with her children, Is she excluding, I can't be a guru. I have to look after my children. You be a guru for your children. You teach them. Jiva Sarupoi Krishna Nityadas. You preach. You preach to your children also, isn't it? If you don't preach to the children, how are they going to be devotees? You can preach to them. It's not just a matter of putting tilak on them and hoping they'll become a Vaishnava. You have to preach and tell them. Same thing. You have to tell the children the same thing as you tell everyone else. This material life is all useless. This materialistic society, don't get entangled in that. You have to tell them. Otherwise, how are they going to know? So you have a lot of preaching to do. So this is nice. All the materialistic people will stay away. If we keep it very simple, then those who want to come to ISKCON and, for power and fame and money and exploitation and corruption, they won't come. Only the people who want to be devotees, actually, who want to live simply and chant Hare Krishna. So, it's a very good idea. Prabhupada had this. City temples are required for preaching, and for the masses, then have farm communities, live simply, produce your own food. Don't need a big temple. Maybe if someone wants to build it, maybe. Even then we may not have it. Because then to maintain becomes a whole big thing. Otherwise you can have some small community temples, something like this. Or otherwise just in their homes, people can chant. And that's all. Maybe a few homes together, they can have some small temple like that. Main thing is chanting. Chanting and hearing. Elaborate deity worship, that requires some regular income. But it can be kept simple also, just like you see here in this. In the light of the flame, Gaunitai, they're very beautiful, but they look more beautiful than in the electric light. What do you think? And that's reflecting of their outfits, so they're very happy like this. Are there any questions? Some came from the city. Who came from the city now? Venkat came. How far away are you from here? 12 kilometers. 4 kilometers. 12 kilometers, yeah. That's quite some distance.
Comes once a week on Mangalarati.
On Sunday, is it?
Saturday they come.
Saturday, yeah. You had that habit from that rented house. So sometimes used to come more often. Good. Anyone else came from the city now? No. I can see a hand, but I can't see the face behind it. I might not recognize it even if I did see it. That's nice. Every time I come, there are so many faces I don't know. That's good. That's what I want. There'll be more faces, more and more coming. Jeev Krishna Das. Here's a Jiva, servant of Krishna. So, no questions then? We'll chant Hare Krishna. You have a question, yeah?
It's very nice, inspiring here. So to live like this, it's the same. But for a preaching point of view, it's practically no one comes in the evening time here.
No one comes in the evening time here, that's true. It's outside the city, but the city is coming. Now you're going to the city, gradually the city will come here. Srila Prabhupada, he got that land in Mayapur, and his disciples asked, what are we going to do in the empty rice fields? And Prabhupada said that you don't know. You think because there's no buildings and cars that there's nothing there. But we're going to sit here and chant Hare Krishna. And so many people are coming. Same thing in Bhubaneswar. I went to that land where the temple is now in Bhubaneswar. I went there first of all 1977, not when Prabhupada was there, at the end of the year. Prabhupada was there in January. I went there in December, it must have been, or maybe it was January 1978. But it was just the wilderness. It was on the main highway, and trucks were going past, and no one was coming. There was nothing. It was just all jungle all around. And I didn't see any snakes, but we were told there were snakes and this and that. But the plan was there that the city, the main city, was going to be built there, and it is now. And now it's in the most prestigious area of the city. Same thing in Ahmedabad. They got the land, and it was nowhere. Now it's the most prestigious part of the city. It was all fields, and now there's the most prestigious shopping complex, all right next to them. It's the most. You couldn't get any better spot in the whole of the city. When they were there first, it was just nothing. There were all so many peacocks in the fields all around. Now it's all trucks and going past on the road. So same thing here. The city is supposed to develop this way, and it will do. So you have to be a little patient. That's all. Yeah.
Very much. You said that we should have some faith, but it shouldn't be blind nor foolish. So
the faith should not, of course. Real faith means that which is based on Shastra, not blind faith. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and my question was like, what kind of faith it should be and how to develop this properly so that it's proper faith.
Faith means that which is based on Shastra. Some people who are not very much learned, they may have that faith, even without superficially they may not be very learned, they may not be able to quote shlokas, but they may have that faith that will mean that from a previous life they'd made some development, and then when they associate with devotees they can automatically take that up. And such persons, even if they can't read and write, by getting good association and hearing, they can understand everything. Even if they can't explain, with all technical terms like Swarasaki Upasana, they may or may not, they may also be able to explain, but they understand everything. Because understanding Shastric knowledge is a gift from Krishna through his devotees for those who are sevanmukh, those who are inclined to serve. Those who are inclined to serve, everything is revealed to them. Those who are not inclined to serve, they can read all books and invent all kinds of things and think they're very advanced and they're becoming a gopi and so many things, but they're going nowhere. It's just a mental concoction, that's all. That's why those who are to be the guides or acharyas, they have to know all these things. They have to at least give the shine. Just like Rupa Goswami Prabhupada has given in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He's differentiated actual bhakti or actual ecstasy from that, what is that? One is pratibimba abhas and another is the chaya abhas. That it may appear to be like ecstasy, but in someone who is desiring material enjoyment or liberation, they may even experience, they join the kirtan and they feel some ecstasy, but it's not real. And we can see that because they don't have the proper philosophical understanding, and therefore they're desirous of material enjoyment. That's pratibimba, or a reflection. It's not the real thing, but it looks like the real thing. That's what a reflection is, isn't it? It looks like the real thing, but it's not. Or the chaya abhas, means the shadow. So maybe that certain persons, they have some experience of ecstasy, but it's not steady, it doesn't last, and again they become attracted. Some shadow of the real thing, but they're not really on that platform, and they're again attracted to material enjoyment. So this is very important, isn't it? Because here in India you'll find so many people, so many ecstasies, and the ecstasy, and they go to the Thaipusam, the Tamil festival, and they have all ecstasy, and they're in such ecstasy, they're walking on the fire. But we understand from proper Shastric understanding, there's not the same ecstasy as Lord Chaitanya experienced. Actually in Bengali there's two words. There's bhav and bhar. Bhav means spiritual feelings, and bhar means to be taken over by a spirit. And it seems like some ecstasy, but actually you're just controlled by some spirit. Therefore you can walk on the fire. But that's tamasic. That's not beyond the modes of material nature, that's on the lowest mode of material nature. But to materialistic people, they think, oh, this is something wonderful. So therefore, simple, yes, but at the same time, some deeper understanding is required. Maybe not for everyone. We can't expect that everyone's going to be a big scholar, but some people at least, so that they can understand and guide properly. It's just like in modern society, people are using so many technological inventions. Not everyone has to know how the technology works, but some people have to know, so that when it goes wrong you can fix it. So it's not required that everyone we want to invite to join and serve Krishna, be a pure devotee of Krishna, and understand that we're servants of Krishna. We can't expect that everyone will have a deep philosophical understanding, but some people have to have, so that they can guide. And some people who know the details, then they can guide others, and then the others can also understand without understanding the details. They can understand this is bogus, this is bona fide. They may be confused also, in which case they have to again consult someone who has deeper knowledge. We find even among the devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that when one poet came from Bengal, he had composed a drama, and all the devotees thought, this is very good, this is very nice. But the rule was that they wanted that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would hear this, but the rule was that everything, if any poetry, because so many people come, I wrote something, I want Chaitanya Mahaprabhu should hear this, but the rule was everything should go through Swarup Damodar Goswami. Unless he approved of it, no one could go and recite their poetry or anything to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So everyone thought it was very nice, but he detected that there's Mayavad here, which the others didn't detect. He detected it, and he showed that actually, although it sounds very devotional and very nice, actually this is Mayavad. So it may be confusing also in some cases. It may be difficult to understand what's the real thing and what isn't. So some devotees should know very deeply. And again, it's not ABC book knowledge, but those who are imbued with Sevan Mukta, the spirit of service. That's why you were asking this Swarasiki Upasana. Alright, maybe, but let's get this Sevan Mukta. You want to talk, flashy Sanskrit words that people don't understand, try this one. Take this one. Take that one. Let everyone understand this word. There are so many words. If you read Shastras, you can find so many words and you can explain this, that and the other. Take this one first. Let's understand this one. So this training, this going out, working hard, preaching, distributing books, that will imbibe the mood is all meant for imbibing the spirit of surrendered service, without which any talk, so many talks, higher advancement, this, that. Again, going in Krishna consciousness, going up means coming down. The more we come down, the more we go up. If we think I'll climb up, then we'll get pushed down. If we go down, we'll get pulled up. That's the way it works. Mercy comes down. We can't go up by our own effort. If we try to go down, that means to perform humble service, then the devotees will pull us up. If we try to artificially go up, then Maya will push us down. What is that? Najai Brikopari. What is that? Najai Brikopari. Tane Fulla. Tane Fulla Dhari. What does that mean? Without going up the tree, without actually becoming advanced, if we try to